So I'm on my way to my shop right now, and something just happened to my transmission. It won't shift out at first, no matter what gear I put it in. So right now I'm cruising downhill, which is nice, but watch, I'll take it for a little spin through this area and show you what it's doing. Listen. First gear. I got. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to go through this now, and you might as well go through it with me. Thankfully my shop's right here, so I can maybe get something done from right here with the tools I have in the back. So I might as well use this opportunity to go ahead and show you some of the things to check on your transmission, and basically how these things work, how the shifting works on these things. So what I want to do is go step by step on the way to troubleshoot this thing. And if you do this in the right order, you'll probably find the problem before you have to spend any money, or any serious money, all right? So step number one, I'm actually not going to show you. And the reason for that is because I didn't do step number one, and I should have. It would have saved me a lot of time and aggravation.
Of all the stupid things to not check first.
All right, so wait until the end of the video to see what step number one actually is. All right, let's move on to step number two. Here's what you're gonna wanna check next. All right, right here on the back of your motor, right there is your vacuum pump. That's basically plugged into the little hole where a distributor would be if this was a gasser, but it's not. Now, off of that little pump comes one little vacuum tube, all right? And it's gonna come over here, and it's gonna be right here. You see 1, 2 little tubes plugged on right here, all right? That is a vacuum valve, which we'll discuss in a minute. So I'm gonna show you how to test this first to make sure your pump is good. We're gonna test that first. Then we'll be testing this, okay? So let's take a look. All right, you're gonna wanna pop this little connector right off of that little vacuum valve. All right, there you go. Now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and plug my vacuum gauge into this bottom hose, and we're gonna get straight from the pump. We're gonna find out what the vacuum is there. I expect to see 22, so let's check that. All right, I've got my little vacuum gauge hooked up. Here it is right here. Very simple vacuum gauge, $20 from most parts stores. All right, now what we're gonna do is go ahead and start it up and check, and I'm hoping to see 22 HG right here, all right, inch. Okay, that's bouncing as it should be at idle. And you can see I'm bouncing off of at least 22. So my pump is okay. That is not my problem. Let's move on. All right, my connector is back on, and I'm gonna come over here now, and I'm gonna go ahead and pop this line right there, this rubber line off, and I'm gonna check the vacuum there. That is on the outgoing side of this vacuum valve. Okay, and that hits a hard line which goes down to my vacuum modulator, which I'll show you in a minute. And I should get about 17 out of that on my vacuum gauge. And that number should go down as I give it throttle. And actually wide open throttle, that'll go down to 0. So let's test that now. All right, got the vacuum gauge on it. And we're looking at about 18 and a half. Coming out. Now watch this, I'm going to give it some throttle, and you should see that go down. And it does. And if I were to go wide open throttle, that would go to 0. So that's all good to go. All right, so the second thing that we checked was the vacuum pump. The third thing we're going to check is the vacuum valve, and then both of those seem to be working correctly. Now we're going to follow this hard line down to the transmission to the vacuum module, which is the fourth thing that we should be checking. Remember, I skipped showing you the first thing because it was the easy thing I should have checked and I didn't. I'm telling you about a mistake I made, all right? So let's follow that down. That's going to go underneath the truck. Down here at the module, make sure we have the proper vacuum down there and that the module's good. and that the valve that the module controls is clean and working fine. All right, I climbed underneath the passenger side, look up at the transmission, and there you go. This is a pretty simple situation. You got one bolt right there, take that out and pop that right out of there. You can see we got a little piece of rubber line coming off that goes to the steel line, the vacuum line. And the new one came with some. I got that pulled out. So you can see my O-ring was left behind. Make sure you check, get yours out. And then just clean that up before you put the new one in. And there we go. Right back in. Nice and clean too. If that's good, you're gonna move back here to the back of the transmission and take care of the governor. And there it is, out of the truck, out of the transmission. You know, honestly, I thought that gear would look worse. I can see some wear and it's rough and stuff, but I thought that would look worse. I can definitely feel the roughness and whatnot. So we're gonna swap that out. And all we have to do is punch that little pin out carefully. All right, I punched the pin, and as you can see, I had to get this out in 2 pieces. The screw does not go in it. That was me tapping into it so I could pull out the broken piece from there. Okay, now there's a valve inside there, and with these open, the weights, that should come out of there, and it doesn't. So that's got a stuck valve on top of it all. So what you do in that case is you can see these little gaps right here. Just get your little screwdriver in those and find a place to grab it and just pry that up. Get that out of there, and I'll show you that in a sec here. And I'm gonna wanna clean that. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, that was very sticky feeling in there. I didn't like that at all. So I'm gonna clean this all up. Use some parts cleaner and put it back together. All right, I got that all cleaned up, and now when I open these up, that should just fall right out of there, and it does. Of course, put it back in, the hollow side facing up. And there you go. Okay, good to go. And so that is good. The valve is working. Let's go ahead and put the governor gear back on. All right, what you're gonna wanna do is go ahead and put that in by hand as far as it will go. Just jam it right in there as far as you can go. And then you don't wanna really use a vise or any of that stuff. Just grab a hammer and just start tapping until that thing goes all the way in, as far as it goes. This is all stuff that you should be able to do on the side of the road with just your basic tools. And if you don't know what the basic tools are that you should have, check out my Overlanding 101 video. All right, the governor gear is in. I did it predominantly by hand, and then I just gave it a couple little taps. Just put this thing against my body and gave that a couple little taps. It went flush, okay? You can see how flush it goes. And everything seems to work smoothly. Very nice. So any problems there will be solved soon. Now, the last thing I got to do before we put it back in is we have to drill through, okay? That's a pretty simple thing to do. All right, got my little hole drilled through there. I used a 7/64 on the drill bit. Okay, and I'm just gonna tap that pin in. All right, the pin is in. You can see it slightly below the surface, both sides. And then all we're gonna do now is just get a little chisel and just ping it right here and here on the metal. That's just to keep that pin from coming out, you know, just a little bent metal. And I'll show you what it looks like. All right, hopefully you can see that. One little quick smack. And you can see that little line. And it just puts a little chunk of metal there to keep that pin from coming out. You know, centrifugal force. Keep that pin from coming out. I just used a regular chisel, you know, smack it good once. Good to go. Notice how the cut of the gear goes off to the right. on both of these, okay? The original and my replacement. Make sure whatever replacement you get, it goes off to the right, because there's some that go off, they go off to the left like this. All right, you want it off to the right, like that. All right, starting over here on the passenger side, let's go ahead and put this thing back together. So to get it out, you're just gonna remove this cover, which as you can see still is dirty and has the paper gasket on it. Gotta clean that up. And it's held on with 4 little 1/2-inch bolts. That's it, all right? And I'll climb under and show you how this goes in. Let me just clean that up. Yeah, it's better. We'll just use our brand new paper gasket. Came with the kit, and let's go ahead and put that in. All right, so we're underneath now. And if you look up here on your transmission, there is the hole. There it is. So you look up, there's your transmission pan. This is the back passenger side, and that's where that little cover is gonna go. So watch how this fits in there. Just, you can't do it wrong, okay? Make sure you clean up around that hole too, which I'm gonna do real quick here, and then we're gonna drop it in. By the way, when you take that cover off, you are gonna lose some transmission fluid. Make sure you get your drip pan underneath. All right, there we go. Actually, the camera's helping me see what I'm doing. So you get that right there in the middle. You're gonna notice as it goes in, there's a little twist. Oh, we're getting dripped on. Now here's the part where I'll be brutally honest with you, all right? You know, when I put these videos together, I make little mistakes here and there. I can edit them out. I could have edited my mistake out this time too, but I want everybody else to learn from it, because this particular problem, not a lot of people have the solution to this online. Now, as you can see, I tested all those things, number 2, 3, 4, and 5. My pump is good. My valve is good. My lines are good. My vacuum modulator is good, and my governor is good. These are the things responsible for shifting, and I still cannot shift out of first gear. So I got sick of it. So I put a whole nother transmission in it. Yes, the transmission that was in this had some leaks in the front seal and some little things I had to do anyway, and that requires removal of the transmission. So I was like, all right, I have another transmission from a known running good vehicle. I'm gonna throw it in. So threw it in, and guess what? It still didn't shift out of first gear. So what does that tell me? It was not my pump. It was not my valve. It was not my modulator. It was not my governor. And it was not my transmission at all. So now I got another transmission in, and I am just baffled, thinking there's nothing else. These are just such simple transmissions, the TH400. And then it hit me. Yep, the last thing I checked should have been the first thing I checked. I went through all of that for nothing. Let me show you what it is. So simple, I'm embarrassed. All right, we're underneath now, driver's side. And if you just look up your transmission, and you're gonna see I have right here an unplugged wire. And that just sits. It's a 1-wire system. It sits right there on that little tiny spade. And what that is your transmission kickdown, electric kickdown. Believe it or not, that stupid thing shorted out, kicked me down to first, and stuck me there. All I had to do was pop that off, and this transmission and the other one that I took out would have just been perfectly fine. It was a short. Let me show you the other end of that switch. All right, check out your gas pedal and just go up. Look right there, that's a little switch. What happens is when your gas pedal is pressed really hard, like you want to downshift, that switch activates and it downshifts your transmission. Well, that switch shorted out. Of all the stupid things to not check first, you guys.
Of all the stupid things to not check first.
So, step number 1, everybody. Check your kickdown. Just unplug it. If everything's good and it gets out of first gear, you found your problem. Man, I hope this helps somebody, because I racked my brain on that, all because I forgot all about that simple single wire. Good luck, guys.